Again, aloha. Thank you for joining us tonight. We do a Salon series, Akaku Upstairs, every third Thursday of the month, and we try to focus it on media and media makers, since that's somewhat of our wheelhouse. And so tonight we're really honored to have some very, I'd say, prestigious Maui filmmakers with us tonight. And of course, Barry Wurst, who has been with Akaku doing all kinds of cool things in the Critic space. When Joel Agnew was with us, they had a show talking about everything happening on Maui. So I'd like to introduce Barry Wurst, film critic, Brian Kohne, who is currently the Maui Film Commissioner. We'll hear all about his trajectory to get there, and Stefan Schaefer, who is a prolific filmmaker in all kinds of genres, and they're going to present tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Barry to moderate. Enjoy. When we get to the Q&A, please raise your hand, and I'll make sure I get this mic that's in my hand to you so that we can hear it in the recording. So enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Good evening. It is an honor to be back here in Akaku and to be up here with my two friends who are also two artists whose work I admired before I even got the chance to know them. To my immediate left, in the middle, center square, Brian Kohne. Brian Kohne created the first locally made independent film that played in theaters on Maui. Most of you remember the film Get a Job. Get a Job is a very special film. It's one thing, as you know, to see Honolulu in the background while Tom Selleck is trying to solve a mystery, right? Or to see Charlton Heston, walking around Lahaina. It's another thing to see a story that is about the community, to see a story that actually takes place here and it has a perspective here and has a voice here. Brian's one of those voices. He's one of those directors and one of those filmmakers. Before we get too deep into the weeds, and I am aware of this is an unenviable position because these guys can talk. So I'm going to do what I can to keep this focused.
Mainly Brian.
Focused, but it may be. We'll see how this goes. But what I want to do, and also, no, in all seriousness, there's a lot to talk about tonight. We got some really cool stuff to talk about. But without getting, I want you to see the work they've done, just in case you're not familiar with it, or maybe it's been a while since you've seen it. So if we could boot up, first of all, the trailer to Kuleana. If we could pull that up, please.
It's bedtime.
Out of everybody, Rose Coyle checks out during your shift.
Gotta admit, that's amusing.
You've been seen meeting with Coyle yesterday. Yahtzee! His wife's dead.
Counting.
So what? That makes me a suspect.
She's afraid of something. Afraid of somebody.
What happened to your arm?
He said don't tell.
Who said don't tell?
I already know.
My daughter's dead, detective.
It's your Kuleana, Nohea. Protect our family. Defend this land.
You live a lie long enough, even the truth can't set you free.
Yeah. That was Brian's second film, a very dark, complex period mystery set on Maui in 1971. Lots of shades of Chinatown. I'm a big fan of that film. And a huge contrast from the first film that he did in 2010. If we can, I purposely wanted to show the Kuleana trailer first because Stefan's in that film. He's the bad guy in that movie in case you didn't recognize him. But if we can, just to be a little self-indulgent, could we look at the trailer for Get a Job? This is the first film that Brian made in 2010, the very first independently made movie here on Maui.
Oh, what? You came to me looking for a dream job.
No, I'm here to pee.
Does money mean anything to you?
I need $100.
Then you're gonna need a job, and I'm the guy to get it for you.
Sounds good, Willie. Can I pee now?
Aloha!
Can you do it? Can you find him another job?
That's what I do.
Love in its pure form is based on a foundation of lies.
How are we doing here?
Candy.
Who are you, Hawaiian? One of us or one of them? Hey, you!
One day, I will come to your island and I will teach you how to play this.
That way! Strum! Strum!
That's not right.
Come on, stop playing around!
Wait, then I'll come and show you how to play it.
Let's go!
Don't be afraid. We can defeat this barbarian.
Two films that could not possibly be more different. I will be not only asking Brian about his process making these films that he's made, but also about his new position as the Maui Film Commissioner. But I do want to do a little bit more film introduction as well. Stefan is an acclaimed writer, screenwriter, actor, director, documentarian. He did a film a few years ago, and I feel like it does require a little bit of an introduction, maybe more so than I was planning to say. There's a lot of talent out here who never get the chance to be in a film. Growing up, Makua Elementary School, there was no bigger name for me in the 80s than Frank DeLima. Frank DeLima was everywhere. Most of you know Frank DeLima. I was on every commercial. I had his joke book. I carried it around like a Bible. Frank DeLima used to come and visit my school. He was everywhere. His specials were on. He was everywhere. He never made a movie. And it always kind of bothered me because Frank DeLima, like, for me, he was a superstar. He never made a film. I love that Stefan made a film called Aloha Surf Hotel, and it stars Augie T. Augie T, who again is one of these guys who was ubiquitous. He's one of the most well-known, one of the most popular, one of the most liked and visible stand-up comedians and actors around. And Stefan provided a vehicle for him. This charming comedy called Aloha Surf Hotel, which also received a theatrical release. If we could please look at the trailer for that one.
You know, I don't know what happened to Ty. One day he was riding the biggest waves, he was winning world championships, he was on the cover of magazines, and then he sort of disappeared.
We just hired the best instructor on the island. I mean, you probably have heard of him. Ty Alonso, Gonzo Alonso.
Hey, that's my band! That's where I live! Wait! How's your flight?
Good, good. So what, you actually have a job now?
Yeah, surf instructor, but, you know, they got me doing everything over here. Let's warm up nice and slow. What you're gonna do is you're gonna put yourself into a tight ball. Hey, no pigs in the water. Come on, big boy, get up. There you go. Ah!
I haven't had my shot yet. I want to go pro, but to do that, I have to have a coach.
The coach is right here. Been doing this for a long time.
Okay, here's the deal. the hotel might get foreclosed on if we don't get shut down by the county first.
County? Bro, I've heard that before, bro. All them guys, they're all taking bribes. This is not gonna be like Waikiki.
So what are you gonna do about it, Dad?
$5,000 or 1 year in prison.
Some big developer gonna come, tear this place down, and put up a big resort.
And you're just gonna sit here and stuff your face?
You gotta fight for this place.
Yeah, Dougie, you ain't call the cops.
I already called him.
Hey, no guidance over here. Only surfers. No guidance. No guidance.
When you're down in a surf competition, did you just paddle in or throw in the towel?
No, I never owned a towel.
And now for another wild contrast. In the midst of all the things that Stefan has been working on, one of the things that you're currently producing is a documentary about Epic Swim Maui. This was a year ago. Can you believe it was a year ago this took place? Let me look at my notes, make sure I get this right. This was when the swimmers had to circumnavigate Maui for the first time. It was 190 miles of swimming. You were there to capture this as this happens. The footage is incredibly compelling. If we could first show the trailer for that you put together for Epic Swim Maui.
Enna tua, naivi o tomotu, Maui o kama. Enna tupuna kahiko, Maui o kama. E na pua, Maui o kama, na keiki o ke kai. Ha, e, hu, e, e.
From the mountains where the fresh waters flow of Kohne, when he crosses through the avava of our lands, and he gathers to the foot of the river where he meets his brother, Kanaloa. All knowledge and wisdom is gained from this.
The purpose behind this swim is a chance for all of us to give back to Moana Nui Akea, give back to the ocean.
Today we bless all these swimmers that they will be the light of the world. That this is not a swimming competition, not a race, but it's a call to bring unity and harmony to one another between man and sea and creatures of the sea. That we all come together as one.
In the build-up to this challenge, I knew it was going to be a huge undertaking. Something that's never been done, swimming around the island of Maui, 260 kilometers, a really big ocean out there. I knew it was going to be the adventure of a lifetime.
2 minutes to feeding, guys.
It was daunting. You know, we're driving along this coastline and we're looking at what we're about to swim in.
You covered a lot of ground today.
Today was the best day ever. Great swimming, great friends, great conditions, and I saw my first shark.
For us at Water Safety, we got jet skis. These guys are swimming just themselves in some of the craziest conditions on Maui, around the whole island. They're gonna face the good, the bad, and the worst. It's pretty inspiring to see these guys do this. It's amazing.
One of the things that attracted me to the Epic Swim Maui was the focus on the legacy of Duke Kahanamoku.
Aloha.
So exciting to be part of something so much bigger in terms of the science, the reach that's going to have, because you've got people representing 6 different continents.
This swim is to restore, to bring back, and to help us to heal.
We are in a special moment in history where we still have access to ancient knowledge and ancient traditions, but we also have access to science, and science is progressing really rapidly. Now we have more insight and the ability to think forward so that we can preserve our earth, our oceans, our world for future generations.
I want to start the conversation by asking you both individually, and I'll start with you. Brian, if you can, and you'll have time to think about your answer, if you can tell us what was the first film you ever saw that made you want to become a filmmaker? What was the first movie you saw and you said, I want to do this?
It's probably A Shot in the Dark, and I just remember seeing it with my parents probably was 2 or 3, and it was the opening credits with the Pink Panther theme, and it might be confusing with the original Pink Panther, but it was the early Clouseau movies, and then my mom and my brother and I saw Airport 75 at the King Theater in Wailuku, and what struck me, I was probably 9, 10, and solidly in the He-Man Women Haters Club, and I fell in love with Karen Black during the film, and I came out walking all going, hey, what are these feelings here? And when I processed them over time, that's when I sort of understood the power of film, and from probably around that time forward, it was always my interest. And we grew up watching movies here on Maui at all the old theaters, Queen, Princess, Iao, King, and then Maui Theater and others. So yeah, probably around there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Stefan?
When I thought I wanted to be in film, I enjoyed film my whole life. I grew up in theater, acting, and but I was on the way towards doing a PhD in political theory. And while I was going in that direction, I walked into a used bookstore and I saw the Pulp Fiction screenplay. And I read it, and I'd seen the movie, and that movie definitely was like a seminal movie for like, wow, that's an incredible vision. But I read the screenplay, and this was the arrogance of youth. I was like, I could do that. and I, from reading that screenplay, which was the first screenplay I'd ever read, I thought, I want to try writing a screenplay, and I don't want to do a PhD in political theory. Another movie that was one of those ones was Delicatessen.
Yeah.
I remember watching that in college. I was the only one in the auditorium, and I was like, wow, this is a vision, So those 2 movies jump out when I think about it.
Yeah. I showed Delicatessen to my girlfriend's parents.
Oof, wrong choice.
On a Thanksgiving night. I'm surprised the relationship survived that weekend. Anybody seen that movie?
The squeaky bed. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to love in that film.
It's a lot for Thanksgiving. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I thought it was a good idea at the time,
If you could take us back to when you were making Get a Job, and you're out there, and it's all the stuff you've been trained for. You're fighting time, you're fighting the days, you're fighting the weather. What's something that you learned making Get a Job that you didn't learn in film school?
By the time Get a Job came along, I'd worked in almost every capacity within the film industry, and television, film, theater, live events, whatever. And so I had spent time in every department. And I cut my teeth in a sort of nefarious industry known as adult film while I was in film school. And legitimate crews in the 80s, they were still shooting it, well, different than how they shoot them now. And so I had by the time Get a Job came along, I had been in every single role other than that of screenwriter. That was the first full feature that I ever committed to making, screen ready. And so the big discovery for me was I wasn't sure how I was going to handle everything at once. It's one thing to know what everybody's going through. It's another thing to have it all hit you at one time under that pressure, and to have that, it's a cliche, but it's true. That 1,000 questions a day, I didn't know how I was going to handle it. And after the first day, I think for me, I was driving home from the set just going, I got this. It wasn't that big of a stretch for me. It was very difficult in not being able to feel your feet and you not sleeping for 45 to 60 days. Is probably not most people put themselves through, nor do I recommend it. But yeah, the big discovery for me was that I could do it, that I could handle that particular role And so, yeah, it was reassuring that I could not only handle the technical side, but I could answer those questions. Not that it was, you know, I didn't have a few meltdowns here and there, but I also, one thing that we didn't note yet, that Stefan is foundational in the two films that I'm responsible for. He produced both films. And it was Stefan's arrival to Maui and us meeting before he even arrived, when I was serious about doing Get a Job, that really did make a difference. So I guess if I was to recommend something for a filmmaker that's about to do their first film, is do everything you direct your first film, is do everything you can to have a producer like Stefan, who's got your back, who's been through it. He took on the role of producer and line producer, and so he knew how to navigate hiring, firing unions, and all these other things. And so I had that blessed opportunity as a first-time director, at least during production, to be liberated of thinking of all of those other things, so that I could simply focus on the task, the job at hand. And so, yeah.
I mean, the way it worked was, we had moved here and I was looking for a used car. And I was on Craigslist and it said, looking for an experienced producer. I was like, oh no. And because Maui Film and TV looking for, so I pressed on the link and it, you know, I'd reached out and it was Brian, and he sent me a 81-page single-spaced. I mean, it wasn't a script.
I'm known to be thorough.
It was sort of like a treatment, but it had lots of dialogue in it, and I was like, oh my God, this needs a lot of work. But I also remember I almost fell out of my chair reading it. And my wife Chanta was like, what are you reading? And I was like, there's this crazy film guy on Maui who's looking for a producer. And anyway, it took a while to get the script into the right format and the right shape. And then finally, we decided to go for it.
Yeah.
And what was amazing, and when you see these trailers, it reminds you of like, it's a community event. It's like bringing so many people to the table.
Yeah,
and that's the gratifying part. Really.
Yeah, I show our movies to students once a year at least, and it's always interesting to see this younger generation that wasn't around when we shot these, pretty much. And so even when we were just watching it now, what always sticks for me if I watch Get a Job in particular is how much Maui's changed and how many people we've lost. Willie K, Charles Ko'upu, Ernie Cruz, and I almost teared because yesterday, in one of the people in our films is Kathy Collins' mother, Yaemi Yogi, and she appeared wielding the banana in the Get a Job trailer. And yesterday was her service, and yesterday would have been her 100th birthday. And so the films for me now, and Kuleana, I'll extend this. They are a slice of Maui at that time that probably no longer exists anymore in attitude. Kuleana is even crazier in that way. When you watch Kuleana, it's only 7-8 years ago, 60% of the locations that we shot don't exist anymore. Let alone there's no cane fields, there's no active sugarcane mill, we lost people. So I'm just reminded that these regional independent filmmaking works are super important to document our history, if nothing else, right? I mean, if you succeed, you fail, they're good, they're bad, people watch them, but they then serve, I think, as time capsules. And that's what these two films do for me the more I revisit them every now and again.
Last question for the both of you, just because I definitely want to take the opportunity to ask a question that I know a lot of upcoming filmmakers would want to know. When you're doing this, when you're out there in the weeds, and you got a 20-day shoot, and on the one hand,
that's pretty generous.
Yeah, what? 12 days? Sorry, what? Okay, well, what was
Kuleana,
it?
I think they were both 16.
No. They're both. Get a Job. We had 21 shooting days over a month, okay. and Kuleana was 20 shooting days over a month. Okay.
Aloha Surf Hotel was 14.
14. Oh my gosh.
Which I don't know.
That's amazing. Yeah. So my question is,
I don't know why.
When you're doing a film like that, what's that? Oh, no. I'm sorry. Sorry. When you're doing that, when you're out there making these films, and you don't have the cliches that you don't have the studio looking over, you don't have corporations, it's independent, it's your vision. But when you're stuck, who do you turn to? When you're in this collaborative process, when you're like you're not sure, where do you turn to?
Stefan.
Well, I mean, I would say that, you know, in crewing up for these films, it is important to pick the right people for the department heads and to really delegate. And I think we've done this on all of our films together. And, you know, if you can find people that are hungry to move up in the food chain, haven't done it, but you know they have the skill set, and you empower them to be in that position, that's always a great, you know, incentive for people, and it also creates a good dynamic on set. None of these films are made for the paycheck. I mean, no one is showing up to work this hard for, you know, between $100 and $300 a day. So
who got $300?
I don't know. Wasn't not me. So I think part of it, you know, the joy of doing these community-based films is, you know, everyone is coming to the table and they're just excited to be there, and they may not be able to be on the whole run, but they're going to be there for 5 days, or caterers coming in, or, you know, someone who's coming out of theater and they have the resources they can pull from all the theaters, and or they know that where to thrift the right thing. It's you're turning to each other. You're turning to people that you can help elevate a project, and you're leveraging relationships you have. And I think Brian, obviously, growing up here, had a ton of relationships, and then we brought in some key department heads on the first ones anyway, from out of state, from New York primarily, from the film family that I had there. And then you start training people up, and then the next time around, you know, it's the people from here, and, you know, then you turn out, you can't end up hiring the people that you sort of encouraged to get into film down the road. But yeah, I mean, in addition to the people passing away, it's nice to see some of the younger actors that are still acting, crew people that are still working. So it's the multi-generational.
Yeah, this isn't your question, but I think it adds something to where Stefan just came from. I look at get a job through the lens of workforce development, and this was a project where we brought in 5 keys from the mainland. Otherwise, everybody else on the film and everybody in the film is from Hawaii. It was a commitment to, okay, we may not have experience, but we can prove that this can be done. And so that many people, and I think there was probably, including those 5, and Stefan, myself, and a couple other people, Eric and a few other cast members, there was probably only 7 or 8 people out of 150 to 200 people who had ever been on a film set before. And yet coming out of that, in this day, at one point I went through the whole list and counted, and I counted at least 15 people who continue to work in the industry, who stepped on a set for the first time on our little grassroots indie. So that, to me, is a guiding light in my current role as film commissioner, which I'm sure will come up that's my guiding light, is that when we empower this regional filmmaking, we create opportunity and space. Maybe not jobs that you're going to be in for the rest of your lives, but we create opportunity. And then if I extend that further in my own life from the 70s, being here for the beginning of Maui Youth Theater, which my brother was in and I was peripherally involved. Soccer started in '77. I began to play it. That's how I got to college. That continues to define an aspect of my life and my being. And so I'm convinced that the work we're doing right now, the work we should have been doing all along, frankly, is about creating opportunity for one another and creating opportunity for young island creatives and those maybe who aren't in high school anymore. This is really how we can build an industry that lives here, that doesn't go away, that isn't relying on tax credit, incentives, and all this other nonsense, right? It's really the pure form of making art and doing it together. So I use some of these experiences and observations to guide some of the ways we're approaching, industry on Maui, if not in Greater Hawaii.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you about, you made 2 films that are deeply personal. You made low-budget films that are a reflection of you, and yet I have to ask, Kuleana is set in 1971. Was there ever a temptation to say, let's just make this contemporary, it'll be less expensive that way, won't have to find all the art direction and the mise-en-scène that conveys 1971? Was that temptation ever there?
No, because the film was about Koho'olawe. Yeah, for him, for sure. For sure. No period. Yeah, right. It was about ko'olawi. I wanted to, ko'olawi was an issue in our time, and I was blessed to visit the island for the first time around '83, and so it was that film was deeply personal. It was about how I felt about issues around the indigenous people, around Maui and how Maui had changed. It was about the death of my father. Kuleana was my way of continuing to work through the grieving, the loss of my father. Really strong themes in that area. So, no, it was always had to be there. I just never knew when. And I at one time had it more in the mid '70s for different reasons. And then what I realized was '71 was the right time, because that literally was. For music, that's when musicians were starting to reinsert Olela Hawaii. You had Palani Vaughn, and you had a few other, Sons of Hawaii were starting to get active, and there was so that was the turn. And what I resolved artistically was that was the strongest choice, because it was literally, in my estimation, the furthest that things had gone, the precipice of the extinction of this culture. And then I understood that to be the central theme, that I wasn't trying to show you what happened during the Hawaiian Renaissance, if you will, the mid-'70s. And if I had gone there, then I would have gotten in all kinds of trouble. Who is this based on? Who are you? Because there was an awakening. So you've got people who weren't really active or aware in the early '70s that maybe became aware. And I realized, okay, some of these people are gonna take issue with how I see it. But by setting it in '71, before the Hawaiian Renaissance, if you will, it was a stronger choice, because I got to explore the attitudes prior to that awakening through the main character, through Nohea, this Vietnam vet who just wants to run away. He doesn't want to step up to his Kuleana, his responsibilities. He's just, life's too hard, I want out. And that was really the meditation in that film, was him. Is he going to step up, or is he going to run away? And so the last thing I'd say to that is the late Dr. Emmett Aluli was the head of Protect Ko'olawi Ohana. We had a screening, the Oahu premiere at the HIF. There was a lot of people from the Ko'olawi early days, Protect Ko'olawi Ohana, including Emmett. And Emmett came up to me after the film, and he said, "Brian, it was all in there. It was all in there." He referenced people. He says, he referenced people that I knew, and said, he was a Vietnam vet. And so to me, I feel like we achieved our goal when he said that, when he shared that. And he's no longer with us. He's the late Dr. Emmett Aluli. But yeah, I do get choked up. This was there's so much in there about death of my father, culture, my love for this community, this place. I don't remember what the question was, but I hope I answered it. I told Stefan I was going to try to be succinct. He went, yeah.
No, it was great. Thank you. Stefan, I want to ask you, as a documentary filmmaker, I want to ask about your process of capturing narrative as opposed to creating narrative. What is that like?
So yeah, I've worked in both, and I guess I've been involved in 3 feature-length docs, and 2 of them were about a particular subject. And so when you're starting out on that journey, you're thinking, okay, well, what is the arc of this story? And you don't always know. And so the first, well, I guess there's one more, but the second full-length doc I made was about W.S. Merwin, who was a Maui resident, U.S. Poet Laureate, incredible human being. And he was in his 80s. And so I thought, okay, as I embark on this project, where are we going to go? He had talked about wanting to go back to France one last time, to this place that was so meaningful to him. So we traveled to France, filmed that, but then he wanted to go the next year. And then he was beginning to go blind, and he would talk about the tradition of Milton and the blind poets, and I thought, oh wow, that would be an incredible arc potentially to follow someone through that process. But he didn't fully go blind quick enough for so then you start just kind of, you're sitting on 200-300 hours of footage, and you're like, well, maybe the story's already here, and so it's a very different process, and you have to sort of be patient as you get into post-production, and then sometimes you have to go, it's one thing if you're following a basketball team that's trying to make it to the state championship, and you have a natural arc in the story. But most of them don't have that, with the exception of the swim project that I'm now in post-production on, which, the narrative question remains, like, are they going to make it around the island? So that it felt good to go into a project like that thinking, okay, there's a natural sort of narrative through line here, in addition to telling a story about culture in each of the moku and also the scientific elements. So yeah, I don't know. It's beautiful to have a screenplay and think, okay, this is it. I'm locked into this story, and you're going to rewrite it in production and again in post-production. You never know if it's going to function the way you'd hoped when you write that first draft. But yeah, I don't know. I don't seek out documentaries, but every seemingly 3 to 5 years, something comes in, stumbles towards me, or I stumble towards it, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should do this. There's a lot of money in docs. No, there's no. It's never the right financial choice. Never the right financial choice. But sometimes it greatly enriches your life. I mean, the Merwin one for sure.
Thank you. Brian, now that you are the Maui Film Commissioner, what is it like to be on this side of it? You've dealt with commissioners before. What is it like to be the Maui Film Commissioner?
It's great. It's great. Kuleana took a lot out of me. It did. It was a work. Not to go too far backward, but it's something I started writing when I moved home 20 years ago, and it took 11 years from the time I got back here, and 11 drafts, complete drafts. It started as a comedy. And so Kuleana was a really difficult project, and from the time I picked it back up and started going after it in 2012 after Get a Job, and those experiences, those growth experiences. And that's the beauty of being a first-time director. If you survive it, you learn a lot, you get your ass handed to you, and then some of us come out going, I can't wait to do this again, and build on what I learned. And a lot of people melt. Very few people make a first feature as a director. Even fewer ever get to make a second. It's a statistic in film school that is sobering when you're choosing to go to film school. But in 2012, I picked up Kuleana, and it would take 4 years to rewrite over and over again, to get the script to where it was, but also to finance it. And we really didn't have much money at the end, but that's how difficult it was. After Get a Job, I had people saying, wow, I really want to invest in your next thing. Great. You go back to those people like, oh, just kidding. Let alone, wow, you're going to do a cultural film? I'm all into it. Oh, you're going to, okay, you're going to a cultural film? Oh, cool. I'm a real estate guy. No, what are you saying? Oh, man, no. You're talking about the exploitation of the land? Nah, I don't want anything to do with it. And so it was a difficult thing. It took a lot out of me, and I poured my heart and soul, and it was so deeply personal. And the growth experiences were extraordinary because, I challenged myself to do better with actors the second time, and, just to try to have a different experience all the way through. Well, anyway, when that was all said and done in 2018, it was for the first time in my entire life, I had legit people saying, what are you doing next? I want to participate. And I did have something I've been also working on for forever and a day, still working on it. And so it was the first time that I had this opportunity to have some financing, to start with it. And wow, okay, this is a new thing, great. Okay, Kuleana's opening doors. Well, at that same time, the college called. I had been bugging them since I moved home almost every year. Anybody who would take my call, when are we going to start a program? When are we going to? Well, right after Kuleana, I got the call, hey, we want to do this. And I was an advisor to them. I said, great, what can I do? They said, well, we want you to do it. Ah, shit. That's what I get for opening my mouth, right? And so in 2018, I made a choice. Instead of making my third film or going after that, I took on building Academy for Creative Media at the college. And that it became a whole nother odyssey, a growth opportunity, not easy for sure, starting something that doesn't exist. The college had tried 4 times in its history to create a media program, a digital media program. 4 times, wild failures. And so there was that. So I'm getting to your question, I think. But so following that yellow brick road was really important. More growth experiences, having a full-time job for the first, independent, having a job when the pandemic hit. Oh my God, did that save my life. But the same sort of thing then happened again, where I achieved tenure. So I was at a point where, okay, the program was built. We have 4 degrees. We're graduating 15 plus people a year. It's fully staffed. Full disclosure, Barry's works with the college with us. He teaches media analysis classes and storytelling classes. So we have this dynamic staff of 9 people teaching all kinds of cool stuff. So a couple years ago, I felt like, oh wow, I really got this handled. I can keep doing this. I'm going to go after this movie again. And at that point, Tracy let me know that he was retiring, which planted the seed in my head about the film office. Okay, I was very concerned. Who's going to take over? And I'm just speaking freely. I feel like in 20 years, I don't think the priorities from county were ever deeply aligned to growing it from the ground up, which is how I see it. I've already stated that I believe workforce development starts that way. The real results come that way. It's not waiting for Hollywood to come. Hollywood's going to come and hire you to cater a film, but then they're gone and you're out and they're not taking you with them. So it's always, to me, got to be a combination of being ready for the visitors while building it in a legit way, in a way that we can grow and nobody can take it from us. So it was just it was another conversation about, ooh, do I go this way, do I go that way? I just wanted to, okay, I'll profess and then I'll get another movie going. And I just really came clear that no, I've got energy, I've got ideas. I've been just like the college, I've been talking for far too long about what's possible and why aren't we pursuing it? And so I jumped into it a year and a half ago. The office wasn't in a good place coming out of the pandemic. No offices in the state of Hawaii are. The challenges have continued to come. They got worse in my time so far at the state level, which I don't want to get into that unless people have questions later about the legislature and film production incentives and what that means. But I can tell you this, from the time I really took it on last summer and I really focused on it during the school break, I love it. I get to take on and I get to do things that I want to do. I get to change the world in a way that I want to see it exist in our community. It's another growth experience. It's a political role on a certain level, so I'm having to figure that game out, the politics around all of this. But I'm getting to empower young island creatives by extension of what I've been doing with the college. I've got graduates that don't have anywhere to work. Okay, let's address that. So I'm loving it, and I think I'm good at it. I'm definitely good at certain parts of it, and it's tomorrow night. I get to go to Oahu and see the premiere of Chief of War, and network with the industry over there that I know, and so I'm growing again. So I have the same level of passion and commitment to the film office as I did in building a school or making a movie. So yeah, but I am going to make another movie. First chance I get. First chance I get. In fact, there's a bowl on your way out of here. No pressure. No. Yeah, so I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And I'm happy when we open for questions. Anybody has further questions, rather than me giving a lecture about what's going on with the office or the industry and my perspective, I'm happy to be responsive to your questions as well as yours, Barry. I'm not answering yours, though.
Well, I have a question for both of you now, and I'll start with you, Stefan. What kind of movies do you want to see being made out here?
Well, I mean, I think having done these sort of smaller indies, I think I've seen, I think we've all seen a lot of value in it for, younger people trying to get in. It would be nice to be able to scale them up a little bit, budget-wise, and, talent-wise. It's going to be interesting with Chief of War premiering what that does to the landscape, and whether, if it goes to season 2 and 3, a lot of, whether production is more here than it was, because a lot of it ended up being in New Zealand. I think it would be great if we had a TV show set on Maui. I mean, over the years, I've sold 2 TV shows that were supposed to be shot here that, died in the development process. I would love personally to be involved in something like that. And I think it would be great to have a story rooted here, that's shot here, that's here, here for longer than just, 25 days of production in and out, so that there really can, this ecosystem of a project can, ripple out into the community in a deeper way financially, but also creatively than what we've seen. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I mean, I sold a contemporary family drama set here a couple years ago with a co-writer. It died, but it'd be great to see something like that shot. I had sold a period show that now we're going to see that, so that'll be cool to see. So yeah, I guess I'm interested. It would be nice to see like a bigger budgeted TV production happen here on Maui. But I do think there's a space for sort of indie films, both super indie, low budget, but then maybe in the $5 to $10 million range that, I think Brian can talk about it, but we've talked about trying to have Maui be a location that could, we could market ourselves in that way, as opposed to, just go to Oahu, use the studio there, shoot a $100 million film. They're here for a couple months, but I don't know. I guess a TV show would be great, and higher budgeted indies.
Same question for you, Brian. What kind of movies do you want to see being made out here?
On Maui, in particular. Mm-hmm. It's my perspective, having been in the office for a year and a half and really examining this in a more realistic way, that I've resolved that one of the challenges is about identity. What is our identity? And I've resolved that our identity rightfully should be as the premier location for independent film production in the Pacific. And when I say independent, I'm zero budget, right? Like, we're good at that already, trust me. To 15 million. That this is the sweet spot. And once the budget goes up much bigger than that, then the entities that are shooting have so much budget, they fly everything in. And so you got to find that sweet spot where they don't have so much budget that they're almost forced to hire local. Right? And we've got a dynamite crew on Maui. Anybody who's ever worked in the space will tell you that. Our crew here has to work events. They have to go to Oahu. They take what they can get, but lacking the steadiness of a TV show. These one-offs that come in. The beauty about these smaller independents is you're working with people. You're working with a director with a vision. You're not working with a studio. Apple, Chief of War, it was a financial decision. How is the biggest television event, a 9-part thing that roughly is going to be telling the story of Kamehameha's uniting the islands? How is it that 6 months went on to New Zealand and roughly a month was shot in Hawaii? How is it? It's all economics, solid dollars. And so once you get into the big stuff, that's what it is. So for us to get good and see what that is and figure out right size what that is, I think that if we start to routinely become really good at this zero, more like 5 to 15s, then we can rely on 60% of those hires coming from this island. And then we can bring in the 30% or so from the other islands. And then the productions themselves maybe only bring in 10% and some of the marketable talent that they might have. So I think that I answered the question. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
And I want to follow up with you. Now that you're in this position to be, forgive me, something of a gatekeeper for filmmakers, what is a process that they can look to and say, okay, I have a screenplay, I have an idea, I have a passion, I have a crew, I have a motley crew of amateurs, or I've got a motley crew of pros. What can I do? Go to your office. I want to get something made. What's the steps?
Yeah, and that's a common thing. The office has always been hit over 20 years with people with a script or a dream or a this. And the office, you know, we don't have any means of helping anybody finance anything. So I'm in the same position that a lot of my predecessors were at, right? What do you do? But I'm in a slightly different position because I have deep empathy for those strivers. But I also have a pretty acute understanding of whether they're realistic. And so how do you deal with it? You don't want to rob somebody's dream. They may have a script and it's horrible. They may have no experience. And then they're coming to you saying, can you help me find the money to make this? Well, most people say kick rocks. No. Well, I'm in a slightly different position of trying to work with that. And that's also the educator in me, trying to help people. So when I'm faced with those situations, I think I'm better at helping people navigate what they can do and what steps they should take. That's the best I can do because I can't wave magic wands. But I also believe that some of the initiatives that we're developing in the film office are going to start to answer that question in a deeper way, right? To create opportunities and let alone access to some seed financing, to do smaller stuff, to cut your teeth, to do those kinds of projects like Get a Job that I'm referencing, because it's good for us. If our community gets behind these smaller things, a bit of short, if it's a short film, great, and they hire a bunch of you to be in it and be on it, great, you just grew, you leveled up. And I think that's the key term we all got to continue to embrace is this concept of leveling up. Where are we? And some people want to move up. Some people hit a certain plateau and they want to stay in that zone, and that's as far as they want to go. Respectfully, great. But I think most people want to level up. And until, on Oahu too, this extends to our brothers and sisters there, until we really systemically figure out how to help our people level up, then our people are always going to be hired into these lower positions. Because if it's somebody from Maui or Hawaii that's directing or producing, there's going to be more hires, local hires. There's going to be, and that's what we refer to as above the line. Don't want to get too far into the weeds, but above the line is people with creative control and decision makers. And until we start getting more of us into those roles, if a director rolls into Maui, they're going to bring all the people they've worked with before, and they're only going to hire local to the extent they have to. So we change that mindset by empowering true islanders or people who want to be here and exist in this space. And so by leveling up, the same thing happens in various departments. If our people start assuming these roles as production designer or head of this department, it stands to reason they are going to hire Hawaii people. But if our people don't get into those leadership roles, then we're going to have the same thing where those leadership roles come in, and then they'll hire some of us, but by and large, their inclination is, if they can afford it, they're going to bring the people they've worked with before, because this is, at the end of the day, a relationship business. And I understand why a director would want to bring their director of photography and all their people, because when you're on the hot seat and time and pressure, especially at a bigger budget, you can't do what I've been able to do, we've been able to do, which is take a leap on people and recognize that everything we're doing is a process of education, starting at the top.
I think it's evolved since we were doing these films, though, because you have kids have gone through Juliao, they've gone through Hizako Lab, they've gone through the college now, and so I think there are a bunch of people in their late teens, early 20s that have a skill base that didn't exist. Yep. And so I'm excited to see, them getting together. And, I have a kid who's, studying film in college, and, when they come back and do their own, indie films, I'm excited to see what they do and tell stories from here in a new way with a new lens that I don't have. But I think they have the skill set, so they need the infrastructural support. But I'm excited for that. Like the next 5-10 years, I think it'll be interesting. I think there'll probably be a breakout indie film shot by some young people that have, gone away to study, come back, and utilize the resources in new and interesting ways. And the technologies evolve. I mean, you know, you can shoot a film on this, and it can go to Sundance and be in theaters. So the barrier for entry is really changed, and so I think there's reason to be excited about that. And also, I think the world is looking for stories that are not out of, you know, Brooklyn and, you know, LA, or, you know, just like, you know, that perspective. And then there's some, you know, major figures that have moved back here, like Rachel Kondo, you know, Shogun, you know, lives in Haiku, went to high school and, you know, grew up here. So it'll be interesting to see how they end up potentially doing projects in Hawaii.
Yep.
Once they're done with the Shogun run.
Yeah, I have a vested interest in creating opportunities for the many brothers and sisters and our children who have gone off to film school or working in the industry all over. I've never seen one of our people come back and screen their graduate film from Chapman or USC, yet we've got loads of people from Hawaii, definitely Maui, that are out there. And do they want to come home? Of course. Can they face the same thing I faced? I moved home at age 40 and knew I was committing career suicide, but it was important for me to do it. I think that we have a whole lot of people out there, and so when I talk about creating opportunity, that I see that that's our Kuleana right now. I have very specific steps we're taking to create those opportunities, but I think it's really, really important because what Stefan's saying is true. Absolutely. We have a lot of talent that's grown up here. We have a lot of talent that leaves and gets better and works in the industry, and then they're not coming back here to live. They can't afford it. They're not coming back here to produce because it's impossible. So creating that climate where maybe some of our talent that hasn't been here in a while starts to come back and get involved with us and you. And I think 5-10 years, I think is the right way to look at it, right? Instead of what's going to happen tomorrow, we got to think in terms of, you know, short, mid, and long-term goals, and we have to work towards them for real. And for someone like me, I have to recognize that this infrastructure we're talking about, is something that I may age out of. I may, you know, if we do our job, we could create this climate, and I may be at the place where I'm no longer a viable filmmaker anymore, but I still feel that like it's really, really important that is my role. That is my Kuleana, definitely in this role as film commissioner. But I think collectively our industry has to stop thinking about themselves. We got to start thinking about other people, whatever that means. And it shouldn't matter if you're going to be able to exploit these opportunities for yourself. It shouldn't. We really do need to be, thinking about the next generation.
On top of teaching classes, and you, as you said, you have that third film still bubbling inside of you. All these things, and not to mention the responsibilities of being the film commissioner, you also have something you wanted to announce tonight, didn't you?
I'm pregnant.
That's a film.
And I'm the dad.
That's his announcement. So I guess we have a third announcement to make. Okay, great. Thank you, Barry. I will take this opportunity to announce, this is probably the first formal public announcement, is one of the initiatives of the Maui Film Office that addresses some of the things that I've been alluding to and extends this vision that I have for the office of bridging the gap from education through to industry. We've got the little college program. We've got these other things that are going on with high schoolers. We are creating, mark your calendar, June 18th through the 21st, 2026, the first annual Wailuku Film Festival. Categories: student, Hawaii, indigenous, and water sports / ocean life. It's going to be a grassroots festival. We'll have the EL Theater and a theater coming online in the coming months, the Naylor Theater, Mappa's new black box theater. We'll have 2 spaces, we have parking. In a few years, we'll have a 3rd venue, this cultural space in the corner of Vineyard and Church, which will have classrooms and its own thing, let alone up the street. You got Imua Family Services, Imua Discovery Garden, outdoor screening environment. You have the businesses, you have its time. So we're gonna, Stefan and he's been to loads of film festivals all over the world. I've had similar experiences. And we understand that a vibrant filmmaker-centric film festival is really, really vital. That's the growth. He continues to work with people he met at film festivals. I do as well. We network. This is how you meet people. This is how our high school students that are into this are going to get to not only screen, but hang out for 4 days with experienced filmmakers and go to the parties and have panels and workshops and educational. And SAG is already ready to work with us to create acting workshops led by SAG members. IATSE, the Stage Workers Union, they've committed funding to be able to do training for people who want to learn how to get into the union. What does that mean? So, a Wailuku Film Festival. And so how does it start? It's going to start, we're going to do 3 to 4 one-night-only events between now and probably early spring that are designed to introduce the brand to the community. We'll work out the kinks of logistics in the venues and Wailuku. But it's also how we're going to systemically introduce the categories, because the community is about to have something very, very special and important, and it becomes Wailuku's always been the gathering place on this island. We're going to make it the gathering place in the state for people to come, people who want to make, students, indies, whomever. So, yeah.
What were those 3 categories again?
Student, Hawaii, Indigenous, and a 4th category is water sports / ocean life. Yeah, submissions go live in November. We've built the team, and so yeah, probably we're a few months off from really, really going public in any really significant way. But you heard it here first. We're doing it.
Stefan, do you care to comment on your thoughts on this?
On the festival?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited because it does kind of dovetail with all these things we're talking about in terms of supporting creative energy that is here in the islands. And I love Wailuku, the walkability of it. I mean, the festivals that stand out in my experience are the ones where they have a strong identity, where you go, your multiple screenings and then these really great workshops and then a late night party, and you're all of a sudden talking to Stephen Frears or Spike Lee, and you're like, oh my God, and then, I mean, for me, as Brian mentioned, some of the people I still work with 20 years later, I met, on the final day at the Berlin Film Festival in some back corner, and so I think that's what we can do. I don't think the Maui Film Festival historically did that, nor does HIF do that particularly. So I think that's kind of how we can position ourselves differently in the festival circuit here in Hawaii in particular. So yeah, I'm excited.
This is a good time for questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, Brian Connolly.
Yeah.
You want to wait for a mic? For the audience at home.
I can probably speak louder. This could probably be a whole nother session, but what do you think are the detriments and benefits of AI coming into the film world?
Wow. Is that for me? Okay. Well, the impact's going to be significant in the animation space, especially. We're going to see within a very short period of time, probably those long credits in the end of these big CGI-driven features. You're going to see that list get very, very short, because one thing AI does very well at this stage of the game is coding. And so you've had a whole generation that has moved towards learning coding, animators in particular, and they're suddenly not going to be needed. Doesn't mean that those people aren't going to find their way into other aspects of our industry, but I think that's one of the depending how you look at it. If you're a maker, hey, it's cheaper to create animated work. If you're an animator who's no longer working, that's a problem. So I personally see AI as a little more than a tool, but it's also disruptive, potentially, and we'll see. I don't personally believe that AI is going to be responsible for any of the content I'm going to be interested in, nor is it today. I don't think, I want to believe that that I can differentiate, but is it going to affect the workforce? Absolutely, absolutely. But again, from a producer standpoint, that could be a benefit, lower the costs. From people who are looking to work, may not be able to work in the areas that they've traditionally worked in. That's my attitude at this point. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think, I would just say I think it's really hard to know how it's going to, I mean, it's going to impact everything, all facets of filmmaking. And I'm in the Writers Guild. I mean, part of that whole strike was carving out sort of how AI is used in the development process, who gets to use it, who gets paid or doesn't get paid. I just think it's hard to know, but it's an interesting tool. I mean, as a writer, someone who spends most of his time, working on screenplays or, breaking stories, it's a tool that can be, can really engender new ideas and ways of thinking about character. And so I think that's exciting. On the flip side, it does worry me that, that a lot of people will lose employment. But it's sort of like the digital filmmaking revolution, where all of a sudden, you could shoot a film on a phone or a digital camera, and so everyone could then be a filmmaker. I think people started making less money in editing, and but still, story is the most important thing, and something that's well acted is going to rise to the surface. So I don't know. I mean, I think we have to. I'm sure SAG is working on this, like carve out, how characters are used and actors can get repurposed. There's so many complex legal issues to wade through, but I don't know. Some days I'm full of dread, and other days I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And I have an incredible assistant sitting beside me. So it's a Faustian bargain, I guess.
We have another question over here.
Hi, you opened up talking about Frank de Lima and comedy in the 70s, and that's disappeared. Is it political correctness, and how can we bring comedy back into, Get a Job?
That's a great question for Brian.
Yeah, that's cool. There's comedy is alive and well. On Oahu, there's a lot of comedians here. We have people routinely doing open mic and other things, and Chino LaForge, for example, is a local comedian. So comedy is alive. I think why Frank de Lima and Andy Bumatai and it's Augie still a brand. The world has just changed, right? It is just a different space. I think if the question was why don't we have these strong solitary comedian personalities in Hawaii like we once did? Well, Augie T is still performing comedy, but he's also a city councilman. So at some point he had to face the facts of having a real job, much like myself. We can be an artist, but in Hawaii it's hard and getting harder. So I think comedy is alive and well. So I don't think it's gone away. Will we see a new generation discover the form? I would love to believe that to be the case, I think too, as pretentious as the world has gotten, I think that makes it even more ripe for comedy. The tension, there's so much tension in the world. Well, great. That's what comedians, I was watching this really amazing George Carlin documentary on Max recently, and he alludes to comedians are essentially modern day philosophers. And so I don't think the form at all has died. We haven't seen people rise necessarily, but we're also on Maui, where there isn't comedy clubs. I think if we were on Oahu, the answer would be very different, because there is a scene there. There's a lot of comedians on Oahu that we on Maui don't know, because they don't bother touring the islands like they used to. A lot of the comedians on Oahu play the mainland, and they're playing because comedy's big. They can get on the main tour We haven't been seeing a lot of the Oahu comedians jump over, like Frank DeLima, Andy Bumatai, and Augie always used to. Yeah, I think so. But then also, I can speak to Get a Job, and Get a Job was unrated, R-rated, and Get a Job ran into some problems with, because we're a conservative culture. If not really, we all do laugh at this nasty stuff, just not out in public. And there's a lot of faith communities, like Get a Job couldn't penetrate some of the communities on the mainland in Utah and other places because the leaders, the Hawaii people leaders, are all deep in that community, and they'd tell me this: "Is oh my God, your movie is the funniest thing I ever said, but I can't tell anybody because I'm in church and I don't want everybody to know I laugh at things that have F-bombs in it." So it could also be a case where Frank DeLima was absolutely clean. Same with Andy. Same with Augie. Augie, they all can go blue, but they can't, because if they do once, they're not going to book birthday parties. They're not going to get booked to your luau. They're not going to this. So Hawaii, as far as comedy, I think the people who are doing it right, comedy, you can't have boundaries. You can't be in that form. And so the comedians in Hawaii that are absolutely first rate go blue, and therefore they can't play Hawaii. That's the irony. So they play strongly on the mainland. White Hawaiian is not blue in any way, shape, or form. There's some deviance. She's referring to a one-man show that Eric Gilliom's currently performing once a week, 3 p.m. on Sundays in Kihei at Pro Arts. Eric and I wrote this together, and it's deviant, but it's certainly not. It doesn't cross lines. Kids, I think some people can say, "Oh, this isn't right for my 12-year-old seeing this guy in drag over and over again," but he's not using F-bombs, and it's not all this deviance that I think modern day comedians, and Jim Jeffries is coming into town next week. If anybody's familiar with Jim Jeffries, the reason to go see Jim Jeffries is because he's going to work the C word into the first 3 things he says. And that's what people pay to see. And that is the climate for comedy. That's where the money is. I hope I at least got near your question. Joe Coy is awesome. He's brilliant.
We have a question here with the pen. Hey guys, thanks so much. I actually have a million questions, but I'll just ask one that came up when, Brian, you brought up the film festival. Is it going to accept submissions for short films and documentaries as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Each category will have short and feature, narrative, and doc categories. So we're going to hit all those marks. Very inclusive. Very, very inclusive. I mean, think about, it sounds like a narrow series of categories, but a Hawaii film could mean made in Hawaii. It could be made about Hawaii, not necessarily here. It could be that it's a Hawaii resident who made a movie somewhere else. So there's we're working through all those things. What are the rules or the criteria? But no, we believe that it's going to end up being incredibly comprehensive. And most people make shorts. Newcomers make shorts. So shorts are going to. And there's a ton of Hawaii shorts being made every year now by the ACM students on Oahu in particular, and others. Ohina Short Film Lab. Here in Maui, we have Hisako Film Lab doing amazing work with high school students. They're currently have a summer session, and in the fall we're going to be able to see another 5 films made by high school students. Their spring, they resulted in 5 films that were shown at the McCoy about 2 months ago. So the categories are going to be all kinds of stuff. And now what kind of submissions are we going to receive? We're about to find out.
Who edited or who edits your film?
Unfortunately, and I'll answer about Get a Job in Kuleana, and then Stefan can go. Get a Job, unfortunately, I ended up having to edit it. We didn't have anybody on island that was at that level that could do it, and I ultimately, and we didn't have any money to pay anybody, and so I ended up having to edit it myself, which worked out good because it was more growth for me, and it was my comedy, it was my humor, so I could really figure it out. And I did work with an editor who was very gifted on it, but in the early stage of it. But the pidgin English was a real stretch, let alone cultural awareness. And so this editor kept cutting out all the funniest stuff because it wasn't funny to him, right? He couldn't recognize the cadence or the timing. Pidgin is very, very unique. And so I cut it, and it was good because then I could at least preserve the integrity of the Pidgin English. The second film, then I was super blessed after Get a Job. The godsend that came for me in my life was an editor who's in this very room in the back, Adi Elad.
Hey.
If we could, perhaps we could pass the mic to Adi real quick, and Adi, say a few words about editing Kuleana, and then Stefan, you can answer.
So basically, there are writers, there are directors, crew, cast. They all work for the editor. Just kidding. Okay. But no, I met Brian by pure coincidence. Brian claims we would have met no matter what somehow. And someone told me, hey, go talk to that bald-headed guy trying to sell his DVDs of Get a Job.
Out of his trunk of his car.
And I went and approached him, and he goes, who are you? Who are you? We kind of introduced each other, and I'm like, I'm an editor. And he goes, where were you last year? I needed you. I'm like, oh, I was on the Big Island. I wasn't here. Anyhow, he gave me a copy of Get a Job. He gave me version 4 of Kuleana. And a few days later, I called him, hey, let's make a movie, dude. Let's do it. So that's my entry. And I left 20 years of working in Hollywood, not looking back, not ever going back to editing. Wanted to completely start a new life here, but Brian didn't let me do that, so here I am.
Yeah. So Adi not only became my trusted editor, and that was the first feature experience I had as a director, having a really capable editor, because it's a collaborative process. That third stage of completing a film, it's really a rewrite. So that was blessed. But then Adi's been a blessing for me, not only, and he also teaches with us at the college, and has for 7 years. Teaches post-production, editing, motion graphics, and more. So Stefan.
It depends project to project. There are quite a few skilled film professionals on island. Some of them work in surf films, or there are these little niche jobs, and editors. Now a lot of the I would say a lot of editing energies like reels and social media, and some of those guys are really, and women are incredibly skilled editors. So it depends. For me, if it's a big long form like the Epic Swim, I think we have 400 plus hours of footage. I would love a team of 3 editors working on it 60 hours a week, but I have one guy in Haiku working on it. Not enough, but we're pushing, it's either budget related or, skills or incentivizing people. So I guess, it's always different. It's nice I've worked on multiple features with the same editor, and you do get into this rhythm and understanding. But I think you do have to think about, what, everyone has certain aptitudes, and some are maybe better at the comedic timing, some are better at long form docs, some are better at, a thriller. So I'm always open to working with new people.
Are there people out there, students or established people, who love editing as much as other people love holding a camera?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How can I find one of those?
You're looking for an editor?
That's right.
Okay. Well, come talk to us after. We might have someone we could recommend.
And speak to Adi, who not only is
Adi
an editor.
teaches many young
He's been
editors
teaching
too.
and mentoring a lot of young editors here on island.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for thinking of hiring local.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people answer those questions by going, who can I find on the mainland to edit this for me? And that's not the right question. Not if we're to move in the direction I advocate. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to thank you guys for what you've been doing about developing the community here, especially the youth, the upcoming folks. But I would like to address, in the film production, there's the pre-production and the post-production, both which we can do remotely in small groups and so forth. Your little guys in Haiku and the guys down in Lower Wailuku. But the production aspect of it is a big problem here for having the permitting, the the locations, or the sound stages. We don't have a reasonable sound stage here, or do we? And what would be available for the low budget student things to have a decent sound stage here, and to have what's going on in the permitting area and what happens in that area for making productions happen here.
I think that's me. Yeah, we're in the process, Film Office is in the process of revising and the permitting process to streamline it and align. Every island has a different permitting process. Every county has a different, the state has a different process. So collectively, all the film offices were in an open conversation about how to create, you know, a one system, for example. Here locally, we're working with Parks and Rec, who oversees county permitting. There's different types of permitting. So yeah, there can be some, there's a little more red tape, but this is county. But we have gained consensus by the end of the year. We feel like we're going to have a lot of the permitting, some of the issues that people are nagged by. I wouldn't say that our permitting processes are holding anybody back, but they're annoying. And I mean, something like to turn in a film, you got to get certain things notarized. There's a bunch of extra steps that are just dumb. And theoretically are supposed to apply to even photographers, right? You're supposed to get if you want to shoot in a county park, you're supposed to get a photography permit, which everybody's carrying a camera. Nobody's getting permits, okay? So there's work in that area. Now, in terms of sound stages, I would say this. I resolved that personally, and a lot of people want to scream, we need a studio. Okay, well, there was a time here where a lot of people kept screaming that, and I just kept sitting back going, God, a studio is just a building. You know, you need a client. Oahu has 2 studios. They're both vacant right now. If Maui had spent $1 bazillion on a studio right now, ours would be vacant too. And who's going to maintain it? The ones on Oahu are falling into disrepair. The state doesn't have the money to even mow the lawn. So Maui, do we need a studio? No. If Sony or Amazon or Netflix wanted to shoot a series here, they would, if they really wanted to do it, they would build a studio specific to the project they're trying to drive. We have no shortage in this day and age. It's just like how music, digital music, now you can record music in your bathroom, in your bedroom. The same thing is true with filmmaking. And we have so many old buildings, distressed this, that. If, depending on the project, then you find your thing. You don't start by establishing a building and then expecting creatives to conform to that. Let alone the idea that, oh, our community, all these low budget, they need a soundstage. What, they really need something they can't afford? Do we really need that? No, we need to do what we do. Creatives, we come up with an idea and we come up with a plan, we overcome those obstacles. I can tell you this, the appetite of the county, if we suddenly had legit producers saying, hey, what can you do? Do you guys have a building? We got some budget to retro. County would step up and do their part. Is it turning the Sears building into a studio? There's been talk about that. Some people say that. We need to do that. Well, we don't need to do that until we have a client, till a customer, till we have a tenant. And so I just believe in this day and age, we have to remain limber. And we also have to recognize that the studios do exist on Oahu, and they're right there. People come to Maui to shoot outdoors. They don't necessarily come to shoot indoors. And there is a gigantic studio plan for Kapolei that is going to be really, really awesome. And it's right there. So I come back to what I said earlier about I believe personally, and this is just my opinion, that I believe the correct identity for us is this independent space that doesn't necessarily need a giant studio, save a big client that, that's going to set up a TV show here, but then we'll adapt to it. What is the nature of that show? Rescue High Surf, which just got canceled on Oahu, they didn't use a studio. That whole production was designed to be outdoors, exteriors. They didn't. So again, I'm just responding because I've heard, I think this community especially has been misled by one another. The actors are all, we need a studio, as though that means you got a job. It's not how it works. So I believe we have to just think about how to nurture that above the line talent, and the more people who are going to build here, or invest here, produce here, find budget and drive things, not just sitting around waiting to get hired, they're the ones who are going to help us find the solutions to what we need when we need it, and we will respond. If we had something that needed a studio, a sound stage, what is a sound stage? It's an environment that's tall enough for lights and where you don't hear the airplanes flying overhead. That's kind of what it is. So I hope I have hit that. Stefan, you may have a little bit on that.
Yeah, I haven't found the county to be too much of an impediment. Permitting wise, it doesn't seem more onerous than shooting elsewhere. And I'm all for just, if you have an idea and you have a group of people that are fired up to do it, just say we're going to do it and start doing it. And then if someone says you can't do that, learn why you can't do that, or come up with some other solution and do it elsewhere, you know? Like just that, you can always put up the barriers and roadblocks in front of yourself. And I just encourage people to experiment, fail, and keep stumbling forward.
Can I ask a question around that? How much is the permitting process due to the needs of insurance when you're on that location? Is that kind of part of it?
Well, for example, for Epic Swim, you get a blanket $2 million policy, and you submit that to the county, and then you're shooting in a park, and then DLNR wants to know your basic route around the island, and you know, you need to have someone who's dedicated to that, and you need to approach people with a certain amount of humility and say, hey, we're doing something that's never been done, help us out, you know? And, but in general, I would say people are open to helping you out if you are telling them a compelling story and reason why you want to do it.
Yep. So production insurance isn't that cost prohibitive, really.
No,
it's not. In fact, the insurance we'd have on a production like Get a Job was so comprehensive that not only did it cover production, but then when we started exhibiting locally, EAL, theater, or wherever, well, then it also extended, and we just added additionally insured, you know, because if you exhibit, if you do a 4-wall, if you rent a building to show your movie, you're going to need event insurance. So a lot of times production insurance is comprehensive enough to cover all of that.
As long as the location you're on has been permitted. Will your insurance cover a place, like you're saying, like, oh, just go somewhere and like shoot until you can't do it, but if something came up and you had the insurance, it wouldn't cover it? Or would it? I don't know.
I guess before I just say go out and shoot, it depends on the scale of your production. Part of it is like impact on the community. You know, for example, when we did The Blessing in Hana at the Bay, I was concerned we're going to roll up there and there are going to be a lot of people there, and you know, we want to make sure the community is knowing we're coming and they're welcome to come and join. And we also want to have the permit in case someone gets, you know, pissed off, and we can say, you know what, we're allowed to be here. You're welcome to join us. So yeah, I mean, I think when you're interfacing either with the state or the county, you need to have whatever they mandate. I mean, they spell it all out on the film office website. You know, oh, you need X amount of liability, and then you go to insurance broker, you pay for that, and you get it, and then it's just a form you're emailing, and you know, it's sort of, as opposed to if you're just doing a film with 2 friends, I would just say go steal. Just go steal it. You know, just shoot it, you know, and then see if someone says you can't, and then play innocent. Because at that point it probably would. I'm sorry, I'm sitting right next to but I'm all for doing it, you know? I mean, on the bigger scale, absolutely right. You have to do it right. But I mean, if it's 3 people and they're wanting to shoot in a county park,
what are the students in like the summer program doing for that sort of thing?
Hisako right now is using our facilities at UH, and a lot of the films they've been shooting this summer, they've been using the campus. And it's been really kind of cool.
I mean, the campus, honestly, was one of the hardest places to permit for our films. Right?
Well,
yes, the politics there was more complicated than. Anyway.
Now that he's there?
I haven't gone back. I was scarred by that.
Yeah. I would say also in this whole idea of misbehavior in the community, I would stress that from visiting productions, that's where it tends to come from. And it comes when visiting productions, this is routine. There's a lot of times our office doesn't even know something's going on until they run into a problem, until they create a problem. And how do you mitigate that? This is part of my gig, is when I talk to these people, if I have the benefit, because a lot of people come here and they don't tell us they're coming here. and they're here shooting a television thing or whatever. And how you ward that off is by hiring locally. You hire an experienced local production supervisor or locations manager, somebody who has the relationships, somebody who knows the process, somebody has the, navigates it in harmony with our community. And so that's one of the efforts that our office is constantly trying to do, not only just hire local, but we really try to convince. But it's hard because, okay, I'll use Bravo shot a episode of something, and they called and they said, hey, we're coming in and we're this and that. I said, great, I really believe all these questions you're asking, if you just hire one of us, if you hire a locations manager here, then all those questions would be answered, and you'd also then in real time never run into any problems of any kind. And then the response was, yeah, but we're using this shoot to kind of come out as a team, and 2 of our people are getting married, and we have a locations manager who works in Hollywood, doesn't know anything about Maui. And so they come in, and then those people, and then they misinterpret what the film office, and sometimes these people try to ask the film office to do the locations management work for them. Hey, can you send me a lot of, tell me where I should be shooting. That's not my job. And for me to do that job is taking a job from somebody here who's devoted their lives to doing this and doing this right. And so it's going to take some time for us to create that climate, but we're never going to fully overcome it because a lot of people who come here to produce and be on vacation. And they want to bring everybody. So.
I want to add to that with the community buzz, how people react to stuff. When we were shooting, when we were shooting Kuleana, there was a buzz around the island. People were excited about it. People, wanted it to happen. It got to the extent that when I moved from the location back home with my computer broke. Motherboard broke, like it was out of warranty. I go to Mac Make Easy, like, I'm cutting this feature, the computer broke, can you help me out? Like, it's 2 weeks before we can fix it, we need to get parts. Like, what are you working on? I'm cutting Kuleana. Like, you cutting Kuleana? I'm like, yeah. They gave me a loaner for free. Just kudos to, Mac Made Easy that did that. Like, I didn't have to pay for it, but I didn't have to stop editing because of that, because otherwise I would have had to stop, kind of thing. Yeah. So that's the buzz in the community when you create something local, that you get the community, involved in it and care about it and want it to be done here, basically.
Totally. And
for all the features we've done, they were fully permitted. We weren't stealing. I'm just saying for like a small project where you're experimenting without a budget, shoot it. But even the permitting on all those, many locations,
35 locations for Get a Job.
But it's doable, and it wasn't. I don't think that's ever a reason not to. Get into production.
Definitely not.
I know it's getting close.
But it can be overwhelming. Permitting process can be overwhelming for people who are new to this game. It can be intimidating. Every square inch of this is scary when you haven't done it. Yeah. And again, a visiting production that hires one of us, one of our responsible location manager, production supervisor, whatever, they are going to have the benefit that Audie just mentioned, because they're going to have the relationships to fix those problems real quick, because they're not visitors who don't have relationships. Yeah.
I know you're getting close to wrapping up.
No, we're here all
okay,
night.
Good. Okay, great.
All night.
All right. But
Last
I just
call
want
we have, 1:45.
I want to thank you guys for making it not just local, but also Hawaiian and a Hawaiian interest, because I was born on Oahu, and when I was in Jefferson Elementary School, there was only 2 Howleys in my grade, me and a guy named Pat Kennedy. My best friend was Buttons, and watching Aloha Surf Hotel reminded me of Buttons. I mean, a guy who was an amazing surfer and couldn't get out of his own way. But what's nice to see is you guys using Hawaiian people as well, because there's local, and then there's local Haole, and then there's actual local, and being culturally significant, which is what I think is super, super important. So whoever here is thinking of making a film, whatever it is you're going to do, just always just kind of keep in mind that the respect. Permitting's there for a reason, because if it's not there, people are going to overrun tombs like Kepualani's tomb in Lahaina before. I mean, like permitting's there for a reason. Definitely. So let's just kind of keep those cultural aspects in mind and always be respectful. I mean, it is what it is, and it's there for a reason. But thank you guys very much for making Hawaiian things that really touches me, and hearing the reasons for doing it, why you're doing it, also really, really touched me. So thank you for sharing that stuff as well, you guys.
Yeah, you know what I would share too. You mentioned that Get a Job was the first feature film completed successfully on Maui. Others had tried, and the results weren't so great. But I would point out that Get a Job is the first feature film, to my knowledge, and Barry, you might want to correct me if I'm wrong, to feature a Native Hawaiian protagonist playing a Native Hawaiian. And then we did the same thing in Kuleana 6 years later. And to my knowledge, that's the second film to do that.
That's correct.
We have a question right here first. Microphone waiting.
So actually 2 questions. Stefan, I know you're talking about the positivity of a television series. What is your perspective now in terms of economics? Because network television, cable television networks, and of course streaming, we all grew up in the days when they shot 22 episodes of something to 30 episodes. And now there's all across the country, people are worried for their jobs because they get signed up to do these 6 episodes. So like when they're on episode 3, they're already thinking about their next job. So what is your perspective on that, if we can get television series happening here?
Well, I mean, from an audience perspective, I feel like there's some amazing television. And when I watch a 6 or a 9-part series, it's usually pretty gratifying. Like you go on a real journey. The depth of the character is amazing. There's great writing in TV, and so I don't know. I feel like that's just become the norm for prestige streamers for sure. And you know, yeah. I mean, the 22 episode Chief of War is 9 episodes. You know, and it's a $150 million show. So yeah, I guess the impact. It's hard to. I don't have enough experience to know. You know, obviously, a 9-episode show of that size would pump a lot of money into a local community if it were all shot in Hawaii, versus a 22 episode comedic that's shot on a soundstage. It's different. But I just think it would be nice to have it'd be great to have a show that shot for 3 to 9 months on Maui and hopefully got renewed for multiple seasons.
Yeah, it's like a real job.
Yeah.
Stefan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the money's better in the short form, the 9, 8 episode streaming. There's bigger budgets than, say, the traditional broadcast model. So there could be a trade-off there that, okay, there's not as many episodes being shot, but the money's better because those budgets are pretty huge for some of those series.
The whole model has really shifted with the streamers on the back end too for actors and people, people who have points in the projects, because you may get paid more, but Netflix just owns it forever, and you're not going to know what the viewership was, and so you're not getting the same residuals. It's definitely a paradigm shift right now in terms of that.
And Brian, you were talking about politics. Can you go ahead and explain what you're learning, the difficulties of it? You were kind of vague about it, so.
Well, for one, I can tell you this, that the political climate here on Maui, in my opinion, cannot be better. From the time I got in the office, I met directly with every council member. I've met directly with them, each one, more than once. I've spoken to them as a body. I've worked with them. And the support across the board from every council member. This is unique. We don't have anybody who's hostile to this industry. We don't have anybody who's pushing back on the things that I'm working to achieve. So that's gratifying. The mayor's administration, same thing, top down. So here on Maui, we have cultivated a political climate that's absolutely supportive of what we're trying to do. So why it's really important to have plans and have initiatives, and that's what I've been focused on, is real cohesive plans that are tied towards the short, medium, and long-term goals. So political climate here, outstanding. Statewide, different animal. Without getting into it too deeply, we had sought as a collective, the industries, all the stakeholders, union people, workers, film commissioners, everybody, we were working to try to improve our production incentive. We're now competing with for global production dollars. We're not just competing with LA, or Oahu, here on Maui. But in Hawaii, we're competing with Puerto Rico, everywhere, you name it, New Zealand especially, and Australia. The production incentives are huge, Atlanta, New Mexico. And so the appetite in the last few years at the state legislature, we failed. And not only did the incentive not get improved, but we have some nasty little language 2 years ago. They got inserted by some politicos in the 11th hour into our existing production incentive, which created more impediments. And then we just failed to improve things and fix things. We failed, but the good news is there was another bill driven by a rep from Maui that was designed to kill all tax credit programs in the state, and the governor vetoed it about a week ago. But it passed. And so literally as of a week ago, I mean, we all knew that the governor told us he was going to veto it no matter what. So we knew this. Insiders knew it 6 weeks ago. But up until a week ago, it was still very possible that our current incentive was going to have a 5-year sunset. So for the first time in 25 years, there's no television programs being shot in Hawaii. Why? That is one of the primary reasons. The uncertainty. These people are not going to invest in fixing studios that are falling apart if they don't know that they're going to be able to use that studio for the next 10 years. They're not going to commit to the Oahu needs the television shows because there's thousands of people who work in the industry that rely on that 22 episode or that 9 back-to-backs. This is the workforce that evolved over there. A lot of people want to believe this is not Maui's problem. I beg to differ, because a lot of the people in our industry here rely on working there. Let alone what I'm teaching people to move into a bigger industry. Why? So they can work on get a job? No. So that industry on Oahu is super important. It's not an Oahu-centric issue. This lift of the production incentives, this fixing of of these nasty little things that make it around payroll and the way GET tax. Let alone, frankly, the Hawaii State Film Office had fallen into a place where NCIS has been canceled for 1.5 years, and they just now got their production rebate from 2.5 years ago. So politically, you want to talk politically? The problems are on Oahu at the moment. But we're working. And the good news coming out of all of this stuff is that we are talking, and we are different people that normally wouldn't have anything to do with each other are trying to find common ground so that we can make a difference in this next session. Stakes couldn't be higher. This premiere tomorrow night of Chief of War is going to no doubt be wow. And it should have been shot here. But season 2 can be shot here. So this Apple series, let alone, let's not forget Lilo and Stitch just crossed $1 billion. It's going to be the most profitable film of this year. And there's no chance of any other film eclipsing Lilo and Stitch. Shot in Hawaii, nearly an all Hawaii crew. At the same time that our politicos couldn't find the wherewithal to boost the industry, keep us competitive. So we're in a really tough spot, but I'm an optimist, and I believe there's a lot we can do here for ourselves, and the climate is good, and county's supportive. But I think Chief of War is going to be a smash, huge, massive thing. And Lilo and Stitch financially is going to be, now why don't you want to bring this kind of production here? Why? And I think the climate next year could be totally different if we all work together. And then we do need to lift the incentive. One of the reasons one of the core ideas about lifting the production incentive, the amount that gets refunded to a production, part of that lift is designed to be based on local hires. So if you want that extra 5%, you got to hire 80% local. That makes sense to me. I personally think, and our rep from Maui, well, I didn't appreciate his position on these matters. One of the things I heard him say when he was, talking about why he's not fully on board with this was he believes that the counties should take more responsibility. And I agree. And fortunately, our county is. Now, are we going to suddenly start handing out millions and millions of dollars to? No. But I think the climate's there for not only the state incentive to be improved, which will attract the bigger stuff, and is very necessary even for our projects. We relied on these incentives, these production rebates. If we didn't have them, we wouldn't have had any money to market our films. Things that, you know, this is very, very important, even at the low-ass level. Access to that production rebate is really important. Well, I believe that we have a shot this next year, especially with the anticipated success of Chief of War and Lilo and Stitch being so huge. I mean, if we can't get the attention across the board, and I would say Senator DeCoite in particular is highly supportive of this industry and was one of the ones driving this bill that didn't get through. So we on Maui, we're very well, in Maui County, we're very well represented in this space. So I believe that there's a lot we can do in the next year, and I think part of the incentive is going to be specifically to make sure that Chief of War Season 2 does not shoot. They'll probably still shoot in New Zealand because there's advantages there, infrastructure, WETA, but I believe a lot more of it will be shot here. But Apple's not going to commit to that unless that incentive gets fixed and increased. But I think in the coming years, our county is probably receptive to starting to do little things to help the little guys. The little stuff that I started with, talking about how important it is. You know, one thing, Wailuku Film Festival, I'll let another cat out of the bag. And I haven't talked about this with county. But one of these, right? One of these ideas that we have for next year for Wailuku Film Festival is see if we can get, and this money could also come from private donors. We're in a community of a lot of affluence, right? We get our act together. There are people here with pockets and hearts. There are. I know them. I meet new ones every day. I meet people with money saying, I want to help. I want to get involved. What can I do? And if I don't have an answer, then they don't do anything. Well, one of the simple ideas we have for next year for Wailuku Film Festival is to have $100,000 to give out $10,000 grants for filmmakers to make short films. Submit your short film screenplay, who your team is, your level of experience, or if it's a doc, what's your subject, with the idea that we'll review these. We'll have professionals go through this, and then at next year's festival, 10 production teams, hopefully, get $10,000. $10,000 is a lot of money to make a short film if you're a low-budget striver. And then a year later, Wailuku Film Festival, we'll get to see 10 movies shot in Maui County by Maui County residents for a measly $100,000. And then we can expand on that. So I do believe there's possibilities for counties to do more. Why is it not happening? On Oahu, it is about the big business. Their focus is not going to be on this small stuff. Kauai, same sort of thing. It's very rural. They wait for Jurassic Parks, big stuff. That's their interest. Big Island, spread out. Maui, different, unique. There's things we can do that Oahu and other islands don't want to do, but we can do it. Especially if we accept that general premise that I was hammering on, where it's about opportunity. And I can tell you, if we can hand out $10,000 grants to filmmakers to make short films, that's going to lead to a couple hundred, maybe far more, people getting involved with film for the first time and having an experience, and then showing up to the second year of the film festival going, this is my movie. And then where does it go from there? Where does it go from there?
So my question is actually for Stefan. And I've been thinking about doing a documentary. So I'd like to know more about what to anticipate as far as budget and logistics and timeline. Shot outdoors in the public. No actors needed.
Well, that's good. Well, I mean, I think the things you have to think about are, are you shooting it yourself? Do you have a cinematographer? You need good sound?
Yeah, want a professional.
Yeah, so I mean, a crew of 2, you can do a great doc. depending on what the subject is. If you're following a character, I mean, I think the best docs tend to be character driven. So if you're following a really compelling person who's going on an interesting journey, and you've shot it well and there's good sound, and that's your story. But you don't know, you have to be able to anticipate, like in any story, what are the conflict points? Is there a natural arc, a narrative arc in the story? And is there a theme or a message that you're trying to get across, or is that going to come out? I'm assuming you have someone in mind, or
I do have something in mind.
Yeah.
So it's been brewing for a while, and I've taken my notes about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think.
And so, I want to pursue this.
I think
it's actually and so let's go back to budget and logistics. How much does this cost?
I mean, it can be millions of dollars, or it can be nothing. It depends on what the subject
Where's
is.
Where's the happy medium there?
I mean,
take a couple zeros off.
It just depends on typically budgets are driven by number of production days, right? So if you're hiring a cinematographer and a sound operator for 20 days and their budget is, whatever, $500 a day, and, then you can that's a way to begin on a budget.
And then you have the editing.
And then you have the editing, which can take a long time, and people, charge different rates. And I think with docs, it's hard to know. And again, it depends on what the story is, because you don't always know if you're, you can create a budget for 20 days of production, and then you might need to shoot for 72, or you might need to shoot for 5. You don't.
So do you start essentially with a goal or essentially go, okay, we're gonna do this in 20 days? Like, that seems like ample time to me, honestly.
Okay. Yeah.
Ample.
Well, then you should say yes. Then that would be a good way to start budgeting something, if you think that's ample
And
time.
so you figure that at about $500 a day?
Well,
I want to walk out the door with a number in my mind.
I could send you a budget template, and that would probably be helpful for you, because there are multiple elements, and it depends on. But the big drivers are number of production days.
Okay.
And ultimately.
And I got the permitting issue. That's that, and the insurance. Got that. Okay.
Yeah. So I can talk to you after and maybe send you some resources.
Yeah. If you can arrive at a $10,000 budget, I know a place you might be able to get help a year from now.
$10,000 would be a nice addition.
Thank you. That's how I look at it too.
But you don't have it yet, right? So that's
just
grant's
a scheme. That's just a dream.
Got it.
Planting seeds.
It's a good idea. It's a great idea. Where's that fundraiser for you?
So we're gonna wrap, but I do want to say I did a documentary and I did some fundraising, and like Stefan was saying, how many days do you need to shoot? You need a cameraman, you need audio. Am I going to run audio? Am I going to run second camera? You start to look at what is it really going to take? And then the editing, I can't underestimate enough. I spent more time in editing that thing than I did shooting. 5 days of shooting, probably 3 months of editing. Yeah. So because it was documentary, and so you're shooting long. It's not like scripted, right? It's like you're trying to get the essence of the story as it unfolds. So you're following the story, and you kind of need to know, like he's saying, the arc. What are the tension points? So again, the budget one could be premised on what you've raised ahead of time, and then you're going to go by that, or you're going to shoot from the hip and do some of the roles yourself. Yeah. And then you save money on that too. But getting a template from him, and getting real clear what your story is and how many actual days you need. On location, $500 a day, depending on if you have people who want to really help, it may not go far. Depending on the camera, the equipment, the shooter. Yeah. Do you need an audio person or not, second camera or not, that kind of thing. So his template will really help you out to look at that.
And I'd point out that in the final presentation, narrative and docs, you're still working from a familiar narrative structure, typically. And so it is planning, and it is organizing, and the best documentarians don't just barf out a bunch of footage. They put it together in a way where it even has familiar genre elements, because audiences have been trained to consume information this way. So the best documentaries in their final form tend to hit the same narrative structural marks that powerful narrative works do.
But I'm going to let you go ahead and close up, but we want to thank everyone for coming and staying long. I mean, obviously this is a conversation, especially with the deep knowledge that you all have up here, to have lots more questions come out of it. So hopefully we can carry that conversation forward in the future. I want to thank everyone for coming, and any last comments you guys might have.
You start.
Please.
These gatherings are so important, and so I'll come back to this initiative, that the Wailuku Film Festival. I'm just really certain that the majority of the people in this room are going to be a part of this thing that we're going to create, and it's not just about coming and buying a ticket and seeing some movies. It's going to be about coming and bringing and getting involved. We want to film office in the coming years. Again, I think in terms of short, medium, 5-10-year things. I think one of the things we're going to be working to do is help people in our community as we move forward in this grassroots way to understand that there's a seat at the table for everybody. You just got to be willing to do the work, and you got to be willing to get involved. And it's not easy. And the personalities aren't always wonderful and magical to be around. But if you want in, you can. And so people in this community, I think, also have this belief that it's other people. Oh, Stefan, he's this rich guy that has all this privilege, and and oh my God, actors, I could never do that. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. You just got to find your space in it, and that could be in any number of ways. And people in this community, especially, Paul Eamon, one of our top producers here on island historically, tells me that some of the best workers that he gets come out of the construction industry. They have a strong work ethic, and that's right. The catering department, there's this or that. In the house, Bert Sakata, who's been involved in a billion things on Maui over the last 40 years, including Proteko Alaviohana, came on. He worked in the banquet department at the Grand Wailea for a very long time, props and conventions. They build out all this stuff. Came on and got a job and was our production designer. Trial by fire. I asked him if he'd be part of it, and then hey, next thing you know, he was on a set running the whole thing, and had to grow into those shoes, and probably to date has worked on 7 features, starting. And so the skills exist here, and people who want to get involved can. And if we do our part, that younger generation that's coming up, we're going to create. I'll start crying if I keep going. But we're going to create in the next 5 to 10 years these opportunities, these difference-making opportunities, and we're going to bring our brothers and sisters home to be a part of it. And then our people who are striving and up and coming now, if we can connect them to the people that are already from this place, that are out there doing good work. Maybe some of our people get work out there. Maybe some of our people out there start doing more work here. And so the fact that you're all here with an interest, thank you.
You're doing it.
Thank you. I think he covered a lot of it, but I would say just the challenge and joy of filmmaking is the collaborative part. And so, find someone who wants to shoot this doc with you, or sound nerd who's a musician, but they might be great to mix this film. That what Brian's talking about is true. There are many people with a lot of aptitudes, and because film includes so many personality types and skill sets, it's amazing when you get them all together and you're walking up day one to the first day of production, and you're like, wow, all these people have come to realize some crazy vision that came out of this head, or this head, or your head. And I would say in terms of my experience of film, the ones that aren't about the money have been the most gratifying. So that's the community piece.
Well, thank you for having us.